Hashtag single dad joked, "I'll marry you." That night she texted, "Pick me up, I'm in the dress." My hands trembled as I read the text message that would change everything. Pick me up. I'm in the dress. 7 simple words that turned a throwaway joke into the most beautiful reality I never saw coming. If you've ever wondered if life can change in an instant, if love can arrive when you've stopped looking, or if second chances are real, this story is for you. My name is Ethan Parker, and this is how a desperate joke led me to the love of my life. Before we dive deeper, if you're enjoying this journey already, please hit that like button and subscribe. Stories like mine don't happen every day, but when they do, they remind us why we keep believing in love against all odds. 5 years ago, my world collapsed when my wife Meredith died suddenly, leaving me alone with our 3-year-old daughter, Lily. One moment we were planning a family vacation to Disney World, the next, I was planning a funeral and figuring out how to explain to a toddler that mommy wasn't coming home. The grief hit like a tsunami, relentless and devastating, sweeping away the life we'd built together and leaving behind a broken man who had to somehow still function as a father. The early days were a blur of tears, sleepless nights, and cold cereal for dinner. Grief counselors say there are stages you go through, but they don't tell you how they overlap, repeat, and ambush you when you least expect it. They don't prepare you for the first time your daughter asks when mommy is coming back from heaven, or the gut-wrenching silence of crawling into an empty bed night after night. I was drowning, barely keeping my head above water at my job as an architect while juggling daycare schedules and attempting to be both mother and father to Lily. My parents helped when they could, but they lived 3 hours away, and I was too stubborn to admit how badly I was struggling. Men are supposed to be strong, right? We're supposed to handle things. At least that's what I kept telling myself as I fell further into exhaustion and isolation. By the time Lily turned 5, we had settled into a routine that worked, not thrived, just worked. Breakfast was always peanut butter toast, cut into triangles, never squares, and apple slices. School drop-offs involved our special handshake that ended with a nose boop. Work meant designing buildings while constantly checking my phone for messages from Lily's school. Evenings were homework, bath time stories, and then collapsing on the couch with whatever energy I had left, usually just enough to scroll mindlessly through social media before passing out. Dating wasn't even on my radar. How could it be? Between work and parenting, I barely had time to shower regularly, let alone charm someone into my complicated life. My married friends occasionally tried to set me up, inviting single women to dinner parties with transparent intentions that made everyone uncomfortable. After a particularly disastrous blind date where the woman spent the entire time asking if I was over my wife yet, I declared a moratorium on dating altogether. "Daddy, are you lonely?" Lily asked me one night as I tucked her into bed. At 7 years old, she had Meredith's perceptiveness, those same knowing brown eyes that seemed to see straight through any facade I put up. "I have you, Lilipad. How could I be lonely?" I smiled, smoothing back her dark curls. "But Ms. Jenkins says everyone needs a special person. Like a best friend but for grown-ups." Ms. Jenkins was her second-grade teacher, apparently moonlighting as a relationship counselor for widowers. "Well, Ms. Jenkins doesn't know that I'm perfectly happy with my special little person right here," I said, tickling her until she squealed with laughter. But later that night, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., I admitted to myself that Lily, and Ms. Jenkins, were right. I was lonely. Bone-achingly, soul-crushingly lonely. I missed adult conversation that didn't revolve around school projects or work deadlines. I missed being touched. I missed being seen as something other than Lily's dad or the widower. The universe has a funny way of hearing these midnight confessions. 3 days later, my car broke down in the grocery store parking lot, a full cart of melting ice cream and thawing chicken as I frantically called every mechanic in town. That's when she appeared, tapping on my window with a concerned expression. "Car trouble?" she asked, her voice slightly muffled through the glass. I rolled down the window, embarrassed and frustrated. "Yeah, it won't start." I've got a car full of groceries and a daughter to pick up from karate in 40 minutes. She smiled, the kind that reaches the eyes, and said, I'm heading to the auto shop right now to pick up my brother. He's a mechanic. Want me to call and see if he can come take a look? Her name was Charlotte Hayes. Charlie to her friends, which somehow I became in the span of 20 minutes while waiting for her brother Marcus to arrive. She was a pediatric nurse, had never been married, loved true crime podcasts, and had recently moved back to town to help care for her aging father. All this I learned while she helped me transfer my groceries into the store's refrigerator and freezer for safekeeping. When Marcus arrived and diagnosed a simple dead battery, Charlie offered to drive me to pick up Lily while he worked on the car. Under normal circumstances, I would never have accepted a ride from a stranger, but there was something about Charlie that felt trustworthy, something in her easy laugh and the way she talked to me like we'd known each other for years. So, single dad, huh? She asked as we drove to the karate studio. That can't be easy. What gave it away? The dark circles under my eyes or the dinosaur band-aids in my wallet? She laughed. The way you panicked about the ice cream melting before mentioning anything else. Classic parent move. By the time we picked up Lily, returned to the grocery store, and Marcus had my car running again, I felt like I'd known Charlie my whole life. I fumbled through a thank you and, in a moment of either courage or temporary insanity, asked if I could buy her coffee sometime as a proper thank you. I'd like that, she said, programming her number into my phone. But fair warning, I don't drink coffee. It'll have to be hot chocolate. And just like that, a friendship began. Nothing romantic, nothing complicated, just two adults enjoying each other's company. Charlie was easy to be around. She didn't tiptoe around mentions of Meredith or look at me with pity when I talked about being a widower. She became a regular presence in our lives, stopping by with homemade cookies for Lily or texting me funny memes in the middle of workdays when she knew I'd be drowning in meetings. Lily adored her immediately, especially after discovering Charlie could braid hair in ways I'd never mastered despite countless YouTube tutorials. Charlie makes the best braids, Daddy. Your braids make me look like a crazy person, my daughter informed me helpfully one morning. For months, we existed in this comfortable friendship zone. Charlie joined us for movie nights, helped Lily with science projects, and even came to her school play, cheering louder than anyone when Lily delivered her one line as tree number 3. She became the person I texted when Lily said something hilarious or when I needed advice about girl things I was clueless about. My parents met her during their visits and not so subtly hinted that she was such a lovely young woman, with meaningful eyebrow raises I pretended not to understand. The truth was, I was terrified of ruining what we had. Charlie had become too important to both Lily and me to risk complicating things with romance. Besides, she'd never given any indication she saw me as anything other than a friend who happened to have an adorable daughter she enjoyed spending time with. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday night in April. Lily was at a sleepover, and I'd invited Charlie over for takeout and bad action movies, our usual child-free hangout routine. We'd settled on the couch, surrounded by empty Chinese food containers, arguing good-naturedly about the scientific impossibility of the car stunt we just witnessed on screen. No way. That car would have exploded on impact, I insisted, reaching for the last egg roll. Says the guy who designs buildings, not cars, Charlie teased, snatching the egg roll from my hand and taking a triumphant bite. Hey! Architect trumps nurse in matters of physics, I protested, making a grab for what remained of my stolen food. She held it just out of reach, laughing as I stretched across her to retrieve it. And then suddenly, we weren't laughing anymore. We were close, too close, her face inches from mine, those green eyes wide with something I couldn't quite read. Time seemed to suspend as we hovered in that moment, the forgotten egg roll still clutched in her hand. I don't know who moved first. Maybe we both did. But suddenly we were kissing, and it felt like coming home to a place I didn't know I'd been missing. When we finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Charlie looked as stunned as I felt. I'm sorry, I blurted, immediately backpedaling. I shouldn't have. Don't you dare apologize, Ethan Parker, she interrupted, her voice firm despite the blush creeping up her neck. I've been waiting months for you to do that. You have? I asked, genuinely shocked. But you never said anything. She smiled softly. You weren't ready. I figured when you were, you'd let me know. The next few weeks were like being a teenager again. Stolen kisses when Lily wasn't looking, holding hands under restaurant tables, texts that made me blush in the middle of client meetings. We decided to take things slowly, especially around Lily. Charlie had already become such an important person in her life, we needed to be careful about how we navigated this change. But kids are perceptive, especially ones like my daughter. One night as I tucked her in, Lily fixed me with a serious look and asked, "Daddy, are you and Charlie in love?" I nearly choked. What makes you ask that, Lilipad? She rolled her eyes with the dramatic flair only an 8-year-old can master. Because you look at her the same way Prince Charming looks at Cinderella. And you laugh at all her jokes even when they're not funny. Her jokes are funny, I protested weakly. Not her turtle jokes, Daddy. Nobody's turtle jokes are funny. I couldn't argue with that logic. Would it be okay with you if Charlie and I were more than just friends? I asked carefully. Lily considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice. Would she still come to my soccer games? Of course. Would she still make chocolate chip pancakes on Saturdays? Definitely. Would you still be my daddy? My heart cracked a little at the vulnerability behind the question. Lilipad, I will always, always be your daddy. Nothing in the whole world could ever change that. She nodded, apparently satisfied. Then I think it would be okay. But you have to tell her that her turtle jokes aren't funny. It's the right thing to do. With Lily's 8-year-old blessing, Charlie and I officially began dating. The transition was surprisingly smooth, perhaps because Charlie had already been such an integral part of our lives, or perhaps because, as my mother pointed out, we'd essentially been dating for months without admitting it. For the first time since losing Meredith, I felt truly happy, not just functioning or getting by, but genuinely, deeply happy. Charlie fit into our lives so perfectly it was hard to remember what we'd done before her. She respected the memories of Meredith, sometimes encouraging Lily to share stories about her mom and helping her make a special memory box where she could keep treasured items that reminded her of Meredith. Mommy would have liked Charlie, Lily announced one day as we walked home from school. She always said you needed someone to keep you on your toes. The comment caught me off guard. When did she say that? When you burned the spaghetti because you were reading your boring architecture magazine. She told me, Lily, your daddy needs someone to remind him the world isn't made of blueprints. She looked up at me with Meredith's eyes. Charlie does that. Charlie and I had been dating for 6 months when the big school father-daughter dance was announced. Lily was ecstatic, immediately launching into detailed plans about her dress and how she would wear her hair. Charlie helped her pick out a beautiful blue dress that made her look suddenly older in a way that terrified me, and spent hours practicing different hairstyles until they found the perfect one. The night of the dance, I was struggling with my tie when Charlie arrived to help Lily get ready. How is it that I can design structurally complex buildings but can't tie a simple Windsor knot? I grumbled as Charlie took over, her fingers deftly arranging the silk. Because buildings don't move and ties are slippery little demons, she replied, patting the finished knot. There. Now you look handsome enough to make all the other dads jealous. I caught her hand before she could step away. Thank you. Not just for the tie, but for everything. For helping Lily get ready, for being here, for... I gestured vaguely, struggling to articulate all she'd come to mean to us. She squeezed my hand. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Lily emerged from her bedroom looking like a princess, twirling to show off her dress. Charlie had arranged her hair in an elaborate braided updo with tiny blue flowers woven throughout. My little girl was growing up so fast it made my chest ache. You look beautiful, Lillipad, I said, blinking back unexpected tears. Charlie did my hair and helped me with my sparkly eyeshadow, she announced proudly. Do I look like Elsa? Even better than Elsa, I assured her. We took dozens of photos, Lily posing dramatically in each one while Charlie and I laughed at her exaggerated model expressions. As we prepared to leave, Lily suddenly frowned. Wait. Charlie can't come with us. It's a father-daughter dance, sweetie, Charlie explained gently. It's special time just for you and your dad. Lily's face fell. But you're family too. The simple statement hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Charlie's eyes met mine over Lily's head, and I saw in them a reflection of what I was feeling, a complicated mix of love, hope, and the weight of a child's expectations. Next time there's a dance, we'll all go together, I promised Lily. Maybe we can have our own family dance party when we get home. This seemed to satisfy her, and with final hugs for Charlie, we headed off to the dance. The evening was magical. Lily danced with abandon, proudly introducing me to her friends and their fathers. We took silly photos in the booth set up in the corner and enjoyed cookies shaped like glass slippers. But throughout the night, I kept thinking about what Lily had said. Your family too. The words echoed in my mind as I watched Lily twirl under the twinkling lights. Charlie had become family to us, not in any official capacity, but in all the ways that truly mattered. She was there for school pickups when work kept me late. She remembered which vegetables Lily would eat without complaint and which ones required diplomatic negotiations. She knew that I needed coffee before attempting any meaningful conversation in the morning and that I still kept Meredith's robe hanging on the back of the bathroom door. When we returned home, Charlie was waiting with hot chocolate and a plate of cookies. Lily regaled her with detailed descriptions of everything she'd missed, from the decorations to the DJ's song choices to which of her friends had the prettiest dresses, but mine was the best because you helped pick it. After Lily finally crashed from her sugar high and fell asleep, Charlie and I sat on the porch swing, a comfortable silence between us as we gazed at the stars. She called you family, I said finally. Charlie's hand found mine in the darkness. I heard. Is that okay with you? Being family to us? She was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. About what we are, what we're becoming. She turned to face me, her expression serious in the dim porch light. I love you, Ethan. And I love Lily like she's my own. I know we haven't been together that long, but when you know, you know. And I know that this, us, it's what I want. For always. I felt something shift inside me, a door opening to a future I'd stopped believing was possible. I love you too. More than I thought I could love anyone again.